Hi everybody, my name is Glenn and this is Camp View, and today I'm going to give you a quick on-foot tour of the campground at Natural Bridges National Monument. This is probably going to be a little bit shorter of a campground review than usual. I wasn't even going to do one, I was just going to do the drive-through. Then I realized I am right now the only one camping here tonight. The ranger kind of even said, yeah, I think you're still the only one, at least as of this morning, on the reservation system, and this is a rare thing. So I had to do an on-foot tour. This is only a small 13-site campground up here in Pinyon Juniper Forest of Utah, Natural Bridges National Monument. And being that it's small, I figure we could actually probably literally go side by side on this one and show all the sites. So I'm actually gonna do that. And that's my site, site number 5, which I specially picked. And everything turned out to be exactly what I hoped it would be for once. So we'll talk about that in a moment, but I'm gonna rewind and we're gonna go to the very start of the campground, which isn't far. All right, welcome to Natural Bridges Campground. I think that's the official name. You can reserve this on recreation.gov and the Raven agrees. Please pay camping fee within 30 minutes of arrival or reserve on recreation.gov. They even have a QR code you could scan to get there. Not sure what you could do with that here though, because I don't have any connectivity. Maybe a different carrier does, but Verizon does not. But basically it's a small campground. It's only 13 sites. I'm right here. And I'm just gonna walk you around the whole thing on this episode, and unlike what I usually do where I just kind of give you a high level and then refer you to the drive-through video to pick a site, I think we're actually gonna look at each and every one here, because 13 sites, why not? But as a trade-off, I'm not gonna be doing any kind of activities and showing you anything else. I will tell you that we're near the visitor center at the very top before you enter the loop here to go around the whole park and see where the natural bridges are and stuff. Maybe we'll throw a couple pictures up later and I'll describe the park to you. You're allowed one. But let's just, so we're gonna just stay in here, but the trade-off is I'm gonna show you every site on foot. This is not, in my experience, one of the more crowded national monuments, you know, in the national park system you're gonna find. It's usually pretty quiet here. I'm sure sometimes it gets crowded, but chances are when you go to book a site, if you're gonna make a reservation, you may actually have choice like I did. I had a choice of any site I wanted. So I'm hoping that's you who've come here and I'm gonna help you here. I can tell you though, my summary of just walking around and driving around, I have not seen a site that I have anything really bad to say about at all here. This is looking to be an example kind of campground where I'm gonna tell people like Yosemite to pay attention here and do better in your parks. So I think you're gonna be pleased with this place. So to start off, you're up here kind of up above the canyon where all the stuff is. You can actually see in the break in the trees some sandstone wilderness. We'll take a peek out behind my site. But the thing to note is you're in this Juniper Pinyon Pine forest up here. You can see little juniper berries here on the tree. And each site seems to be hidden away in some of these things. So you get, I would say your privacy here is better than average, is what I'm noticing. For example, you know, you got site 1 over there. Tent's gonna be hidden away back there. And then site 2's over here, but their tent pad's way back there. So not only are you spread out well, you have all of these trees and vegetation to block your sight lines. So even if you get a really crappy neighbor, chances are it might annoy a little bit, but it's not gonna be as bad as most of the national park campgrounds I've camped in, where it's basically tent cities, if you wanna be honest. So let's just make sure I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is here. Site number 1, actually this one has a reserve sign on it. Interesting, maybe someone did reserve. Anyway, you could see the driveways are not that big. There's a sign coming in here saying you cannot have anything 26 feet or greater combined. So I assume that means if you're towing something, that would be your truck and what you're towing. That's how I interpret that. But anyway, site 1, I would say very indicative of most sites. Driveway length is just about that, I would say. I have a slightly longer driveway, I'll show you. But yeah, you're gonna get your standard amenities here, which are gonna include a picnic table, a fire ring. I don't know why you'd want a fire now, unless you're a tourist and you're just doing it for ambience, because there's no reason to have a fire in this warmth. Anyway, and you're gonna get a tent pad. I have 2 tent pads, but these are super nice. I've set my tent up already and everything's staked in really nicely and easily. And I love when people do this. Technically, they didn't really have to. There's a lot of flat ground, I suppose, you could pitch your tent on in addition to the tent pads in case maybe you got a couple tents or your tent's too big for that. I'm gonna show you my tent pad, but I think you probably are not gonna get more than a 6-person tent in those. And I'll show you mine. Site 2 is the site next to site 1. And just like site 1, you're kind of tucked away back in these trees. You've got your standard amenities, your picnic table, your fire ring over there, and this has 1 tent pad. Now I do suppose, now that I'm back there, here's your neighbor. Not horrible, but site number 2 may be one to avoid if you want maximum privacy. Although I think that's tolerable and there's enough trees to make it a little bit better. You know what I mean if you guys camp a lot. We're gonna continue our quick walking tour here, and now you're looking at site 3. Site 3 is, like I said, right by site 2. And this is the one that I was saying, hey, maybe watch out, but check this out. And here's why I think things are, if you're limited with choices, here's why I think it's okay. There's site 2, but your tent pad's way hidden back here. And this one actually has a lot of shade compared to some of the other ones. So I might actually recommend site 3 if you want a shady spot for your tent. As long as you're willing to see that your neighbors are there, but still, trust me, that is not bad at all. All right, site number 4, now we're getting into my territory. There's site number 4, and you can see now, you can see the break in the trees a little bit. And there's me, site number 5. So you could see very well spread apart there. Site 4 is probably the hilliest site I've seen yet. Your picnic table is not level, just FYI. It's not horrible. If you're gonna try to pitch your tent somewhere other than the tent pad, you're gonna have some unlevel ground. But thank goodness, save the day. Guess what they put here? Tent pads. So, and this one's very nice here, kind of in the shade also. So I could tolerate that. I could take the unlevel picnic table, which isn't like super unlevel horrible. And this is a nice little spot. So once again, there's nothing bad so far. Pick your poison, I guess, but let me come over here. And you can also see too, each site has lots of ground where I presume you can have more than 1 tent. Check the website, make sure the equipment is allowed, but you know, probably could. And now we're walking down the one-way loop here towards where Slim and I are spending the night in site 5. Now, when I was looking at recreation.gov, looking at the pictures they provided, I couldn't really discern how close it was to the other sites, but then I was looking at the map, and the map made it seem like 5 and 6 were kind of in a corner here, further away from other sites, and I think that's true. So far, I think my site, haven't looked at them all, site 5 is my favorite site so far. So I chose wisely for once. I would say site 5 has a slightly longer driveway length than most, maybe bordering like 2 times the length. I don't know the exact feet, so if that's important to you, cool. But if you want to back into it, you have to like go around a loop. I found, come out that way and then back in this way. That was the easiest way. The site 5 is a big site too. It's got a lot of ground, but it also has 2 tent pads on it. 2 the same size tent pads. They all seem to be the same size. And now you actually get to see a tent pitched in one of these so you can gauge the size. And I'm here to tell you that they're not that large, but it was just right for me. All right, I'm in an REI 6-person tent. I have the awning out. You could see I had to stake the awning outside of the tent pad, but it worked. And, you know, walking around, you could see my tent fits in there. It was just the awning that didn't. I don't have connectivity out here right now. I don't feel like setting Starlink up either. It's too hot. But go on the website and it probably tells you the recommended equipment size for these sites. They oftentimes do, but I'm here to tell you think you're most likely, unless the design's something weird, gonna be fine in a 6-person tent in these tent pads. And in the event you have something larger, you're in a family thing, I personally think you have all this open ground where you can pitch a tent in multiple places, and you're gonna fit any size tent you want to put in these places you can. Albeit some, like here, it starts to get a little bit unlevel, but here in the middle, you're fine. You could probably even move the picnic table a little bit if you needed to. So I wouldn't be afraid if you have a larger tent than a 6-person. You just may not be able to enjoy the benefit of the tent pads. But if you have 2 6-person tents or smaller, Site 5 would be perfect for you if everybody wanted their own tent pad. Pay attention here. My Site 5, I told you, I felt like it was in the back corner, and it is. I bet you my closest neighbors are way across the street here. We'll look at that when we get over there. But you can't even see me, you can barely see where I'm at. And so I was right about this Site 5 being in the corner, and Site 6 was my other choice that I was debating these two when I was online looking at the overall map. Like I said, their pictures don't help that much, in my opinion. I think reservation.gov needs to understand that just showing a picture of a site like this, they just show you like this. How the heck are you supposed to know how close your neighboring site is, how your tent can fit in here, any of that stuff? You can't. It's almost like worthless to do that. Anyway, I did come close to booking this. We actually have somebody did reserve this. You have a tent camper arriving today for one night. So they probably had the same idea that I had. Normally I'd be bummed. I'm like, pick a different effing site, people. When you go on there, you could see that I chose the site. Why do you always have to camp next to me? But here I don't say that. To me, it doesn't bother me at all. Somebody left wood here too. I'm not gonna take it unless those people, maybe they've already been here or something. But they have their 2 tent pads here in Site 6, so verification, you get 2 here close together, same size, 6-person tent or smaller, I'd say. And then you're tucked away in these trees. And I'm way over there, so you can barely, my tent's yellow, so it kind of stands out, but that doesn't bother me at all. And if they're really loud or something, like keep in mind too, hopefully if they're loud, they're gonna be even further away over there. So unless they're real partiers, which can happen, you're probably not gonna have any issues at all anywhere in here. And this is my last night camping out of like a longer than 2-week stretch of a tent, night after night after night. So I can take whatever you got. Give me your worst. I shouldn't say that, but I can survive one night if it's somebody that sucks. Well, I haven't run into that pretty much since Zion. Only one night there was really bad. Every other thing since has been fine. Now doing the restroom tour for once is really easy because I don't have to feel creepy because there's nobody here. They have 2 vault toilets that I noticed, this one near us and one towards the front. I smell a little bit of the aroma outside because they got the pipes, but usually that means it keeps the aroma out. Actually has a vacant thing on there. Seats down, and it's very clean. It actually smells kind of like, I don't know if it's that, but like kind of a perfumey smell. It doesn't smell at all like a nasty vault toilet. You smell none of the smell. And let me keep the door closed because I don't want to let any flies in there. But when I see these style vault toilets that have the exhaust like that, that makes all the difference. But the trade-off is that does emit stink sometimes. So every once in a while, depending on where you're camping, especially at Joshua Tree National Park, it was really bad, you might catch some smell. All right, we're making our rounds here. It's possible someone might show up in the middle of this and I can't show you every site, but we're on track to. All right, what do we got here? I think we got 7 and 8 now. 7 and 8 I notice are unique in that they're right next to each other and they've got this thing here. However, I'm starting to think that, they do these on purpose because I think there are situations where you have little groups that having two things next to each other is a benefit, and you actually want that. So I think they do that sometimes. for that purpose. But it just sucks though when very often you're not doing it for that purpose and you had no choice. So my question would be, how often do people choose these sites and actually enjoy the benefit of them being close together because they want to? And how often does it suck and you don't like it? I see a big RV coming through here now. So anyway, you could see 7 has 2 tent pads. Those aren't really as far back off the road as others. I would say these 2 sites are probably among the least private of the day. And then site number 8, right here. Site number 9 might be the 3rd least private because you're kind of on this little island. You can see the guy driving around there. Really a lot of exposed here, not as much shade maybe. With all that said, if this was all that was left and I had to pick it, and I showed up and I saw this, would I be cursing, saying, oh, this sucks? No, I wouldn't. I'd actually be pretty pleased, because still look, even though you've got people over there, and then you've got that over there, and I'm over there, for all intents and purposes, you're private. You can't see me through those trees that well. I can't see you. You're kind of spread out from everybody else. You're gonna be fine here. Now the next site, presumably 10, I'm filming from the road because you could see that tent pad is right there next to the road. So that might be one I'd avoid. Although it's a small campground, so I wouldn't expect a lot of foot traffic or people bugging you. This is the one that's closest to the road and not tucked away. It is site 10 here on this corner, and it looks like site 11 is right next to this. So, okay, I would say sites 10 and 11, unless these are intentionally close together because you want a group situation, avoid these. And you can see there's your driveway in 11, there's 10 right there, 11's tent pad, and then you can also see like 7 and 8 are right there too. So this whole middle grouping, 7, 8, 10, and 11, I would say would be avoid them, but if you get them, you're not gonna be like devastatedly like, this sucks. They're just not the best. And 11 is right next to the restroom. So maybe if you have accessibility needs too, because you could get to this on pavement right there to the restroom if you need to. So there's a benefit there. Anyway, site 12, we'll kind of look at from the road here. A little bit more private than 10 and 11, but you're still kind of in this section for whatever reason. Not as private as some of the other ones. And we'll kind of come around here and look. I would say 12's tent pad is pretty far back there, so not a bad site. So actually, I just realized we're in site 12, so there's only one more to see. So yeah, 13, our last site here, we're gonna look at small driveway right by the beginning, by this pay thing. And right across from 1, the first one we saw. And I would say back to true to form, like how we were seeing the first sites. 13, think you get just this tent pad and that table and firing, but you're kind of tucked away back here, right? So that's not bad. But back there, there's another tent pad for one of your neighboring sites and picnic table. So, you know, 13 is closer. There's like 12 right there is your neighbor. And some of the trees are more sparse here. They look like they're dead. So not the best sight lines, but once again, compare this to a Fruta campground, which I loved, but think of the layout there and think how it's like basically tent cities with nothing to block your sight line. This is way, way better than that. So maybe a good way to summarize this and tie it all together. I found sites 1, as we walk the loop, sites 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way down to 6, past mine, the best. And then when you turn the loop, then you start to have some more privacy issues, and while nothing's horrible, I'll just show you the one thing to avoid the most, depending on your situation. And once again, as part of the summary, the sites to avoid, unless you are purposely trying to get 2 adjacent sites for a group, are 7 and 8. If you get either of these, you're right on your neighbor. However, I would still argue, still better than to me, this is par for the course for your national park, you know, managed sites. And still probably even a little bit more spread apart when you look at how far the tent pads are. So worst case scenario, don't panic. Pick one, you're not gonna be devastated. But if you had to avoid, if you're not in a group, don't pick these, or else you're running that risk of having a crappy neighbor that's gonna keep you up all night. So overall, Natural Bridges Campground, I give this a huge thumbs up. It may even be a contender for a top 10 situation. I like it that much. Actually, it probably is going to be. Anyway, this is officially my last video of this whole trip I've took in Utah. Over 2 weeks of camping in this tent, night after night after night. 3 major parks, ending here. Well, I guess 4 if you count this one. And this is it. I'm not gonna go film down in the arches this time. I'm just too tired. Maybe I can show some clips to show you what's in this area because it's amazing. But I'm done. You saw the campground. You're welcome. Hope you can actually make it here sometime because it's awesome. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't, and we'll see you next time.